Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? Pretty much everything because it's all covered in ice. No joke, we are in the middle of a completely brutal winter storm. They've actually given this one a name. I already forgot it. But I'm driving to work. It is single digit degrees, very low single digit. The problem out here in Oklahoma with the wind is the chill, and we are experiencing what feels like negative 20. So that's fantastic. I haven't had conditions like this since I was working Park City. And yet, in the cold dark of this abysmal season, there is cause for rejoicing. I've got two pieces of good news and a question for you guys at the back half of the video. It'll probably be the thumbnail image of this one. So, the two pieces of good news. First, I finished the manuscript that I've been working on for the last 3 months. I got my beta feedback. I did get not impatient, but just antsy and excited. And when some of the feedback came, I implemented it, made another pass. I'm very happy with how this draft came out, and I sent it off to the publisher that is looking for exactly this kind of thing. They did an open call for adventure for young boys to read. They had a couple of parameters. I satisfied it, and then from there just went ape crazy, and it was fantastic. I had a great time writing it. Every time I read back through it, there were very few spots where I was like, oh, this sucks, I need to clean this up. Every draft just made it tighter and better. That was fantastic. The other piece of good news comes from, well, you remember last month when I did that video about Arc Press, explained what their rundown was. It's a new publisher that popped up. This can always be a hit or a miss thing just because there are small presses popping up all the time. But this one has some strong backing behind it, and it's got people working for it that I trust. And I'm very optimistic and bullish on their prospects for the future. So I decided to look into them, see what they were looking for, and throw my hat into the ring. And I got some very good news from them today. What they were looking for, submissions-wise, was actually proposals. You'll write up a proposal that's a couple thousand words, like not more than 2,000 or so, and say, this is the book, this is what it's about, here's some samples of it, genre, target word count, etc. Like, give them a 30,000-foot view of it. Don't just do like a regular pitch. It's an actual proposal for the entire project. And since I was already planning on doing another draft of my Thanksgiving epic fantasy novel, I thought, well, why don't I send it to them and see what they think? My plan was to get it drafted and written and even hopefully published this year. I've been putting this thing off for a while. But then this publisher popped up and it had some people behind it that I like. I was like, okay, here we go. So I wrote the proposal. I sent it in back in January. And there's a waiting period on this thing. It's the way that it's always been with querying and proposing. And as it just so happens, yesterday I got a message from one of the acquiring editors. He's like, hey, do you have time for a Zoom call? If he had messaged me on any other weekday this year so far, the answer would have been no. But the weather was so bad with this storm that work actually got canceled. And in all the years that I've been working for this company and through all the terrible weather conditions, they've never done that before. It was that bad. And it wasn't just that they were worried about hazards to the equipment or slipping or anything. Like, the frostbite danger is so severe that they'd be dealing with workman's comp stuff for the next couple of months if guys went out in these conditions. So there I was, sitting at home, having time to catch up on some writing projects. I was even doing some Substack stuff. And suddenly I get this email. I get to hop on a Zoom call with the acquisitions editor, and he gives me the skinny. Basically, they had a pretty high rejection rate right out of the gate for proposals. But he said, we liked yours. Here's what we're looking for. We're wondering what you would look like, or what you would look at for what am I even trying to say here? Like a turnaround time to get a draft going. Could you hammer one out in the next 6 weeks? I told him what my work schedule was like, and give him a more realistic prospect for when I could have a draft ready. He says that's cool, and so now it's all guns a blazing on the Thanksgiving epic fantasy. things are just lining up fantastically well for this. I wish that there was, there's no better way of describing it than that. I've read so many nonfiction books about this subject over the last couple of years, and just a few months ago, I listened to a video from a YouTube channel called The Lore Lodge that got into some Algonquin legends that were perfect for tying into this book. It was kind of the missing piece to make this whole concept work. I wrote a draft of this book and published it on my old podcast 5 years ago, and it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great, and I wasn't proud of it. So I scrapped that and didn't turn it into the print edition. Now I get to go back and fix the things about it that I didn't like, rewrite it, beef it up, make it better, make it make more sense, and make it more impactful, and send it off to this publisher. And I'm just thrilled to get my shot at this. And in a sense, I've kind of covered my bets because, like I said, I was already planning on doing this self-publishing wise. If for whatever reason they choose that they don't want it, oh no, I've got a manuscript that's finished that I can self-publish. I probably won't get it out in 2025, only because I would want to have time to sit on it and tidy it up if need be, and also have time to do the illustrations. Nevertheless, the book would be done. So I sat down tonight, I wrote out about 900 words of the story beats so far, started chasing a couple of ideas for scenes. From here I get to structure the scenes, like, okay, this has got to happen, this has got to happen, and I've got to make sure to clarify the connection and the causality, the whole cause and effect thing that worked so well for the middle grade book I just finished, so that the pacing and the flow are dead on. But I'm in a really good space creatively and productively, productivity-wise, making stuffingly, and it feels good. This is a rare feeling. It can be fleeting at times, so I'm going to chase it while I got it and keep working even if it goes away. Finally, the thing that I wanted to share with you. This actually came to me by way of Sam Robb, my buddy author out there in Pittsburgh. He shared this post on Facebook. I got a laugh out of it because it really strikes a chord with me. You guys know that I'm not a huge fan of lit RPG. I'm a little bit more friendly towards progression fantasy, just because I hate the stat sheetness of it all. But lit RPG, even in its name, is meant to sit at the center of a Venn diagram between tabletop gamers, roleplay gamers, and fantasy readers. Because there is a cross-section of readers who are interested in that stuff. But if you're squarely in the fantasy reader side of things like I am, the navel-gazing at stat sheets can really lose you. And that's basically the cause of my frustration with this genre, because I myself am not an RPG player. I'm familiar with how they work, but I don't care to sit and read stat sheets and numbers and leveling up and all of that stuff. But the specifics of this post that Sam shared was that you should not get into math when you're writing fantasy. How fast does your spaceship go? Fast. How strong is your main character? Very strong. How heavy is this object? It's extremely heavy. Because you'll never be more autistic than your most autistic critic who says, wait a minute, if this was going to work, then that would have to happen. Blah, blah, blah. Like, you've got to kind of know that stuff for yourself so that the internal mechanics of your world are consistent. But if you sit there and belabor the point with your readers, you're eventually going to come across one or maybe even several of them that would look at this and say, there's no way that this would work. Here's the math on it. And, you shouldn't write in fear of your critics, but you should write to be understood and to be coherent. And there's, I think, a gray area that you can play with. And as long as you understand it and it's defensible, you can make it make sense without giving too many specifics. I encountered that with the middle grade book that I just sent off. The working title is Fossil Force. It's got arcane power armor, hollow earth, dinosaur graveyards, Indian reservations. It's set in present day Utah. Like, there's a lot of cross sections for this book. It's just fantastic. But I made sure to understand the world myself without putting too many of those specifics on the page. And when the beta reader feedback came back, there was really only one or two small points that needed elaboration. And other than that, he was able to grasp the consistency of it without getting into the specifics. How heavy are the armors? What are they powered by? What's the voltage? What's whatever? Like, none of that matters. It works. Here are the limitations, and what's more important are the dramatic and character story beats than the outright mechanics of how it all works. There was one thing that I had to fix. I ran it by him today after I sent it off. He's like, okay, yeah, that's a lot better. Boom, set, ready to rumble. But I know that my readers and my viewers can disagree with me from time to time. So what is your take on this meme here that Sam posted? Let me know in the comments below. I got to go freeze my corn fried Newtons off at work for the next 10 hours. Y'all drive safe. Stay warm. See you out there.